Am I the a-hole for insisting my niece is co-flower girl with my fiancé's niece? Plus update. Original post. My fiancé and I are planning our wedding. She comes from a large family. She has 5 sisters. Most of them have kids. 4 of her sisters are her bridesmaids, 1 is serving as maid of honor. I come from a smaller family. Just my parents, my sister, and my niece, Bryn. Bryn is 3 years old and pretty much my best pal. I'm her godfather, and I love her to bits. I didn't care when my fiancé didn't choose my sister to be a bridesmaid, and likewise, my sister was cool with it. I did feel some sort of way because I have all 4 of my fiancé's brothers-in-law in my wedding party, at fiancé's request, but ultimately it's her side of the party so she can do what she wants. Then it came time to pick the younger roles in the wedding. Her older nephews are junior groomsmen, the younger is the ring bearer. She only has 1 niece, Aubrey, who's 4. My fiancé wants her to be the flower girl. I said that's fine, but I also want Bryn to be one. They can walk down the aisle together. It'd be super cute. Bryn loves playing with Aubrey, so they get along. My fiancé says she wants our wedding to be traditional, so there can only be 1 flower girl. I suggested Bryn could hold a sign or something while Aubrey threw flowers. My fiancé said no, she can sit with my sister and parents. At this point, I insisted and said Bryn would be flower girl. I texted my sister and asked, and she agreed. My fiancé got angry and said it's my day too. Bryn means a great deal to me and she'll be in the wedding. My fiancé and Aubrey's mom are now mad at me, saying I'm stealing Aubrey's spotlight. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Info. Are you two getting premarital counseling to do a general inventory in how you two agree or disagree on other issues? Because I have a sense that if you two did get such counseling, there would be a lot more issues uncovered. We don't have that planned. Maybe a good idea. It's a great idea. Couples before getting married really need to hash out exactly how they feel about things like money, raising kids, how to handle parents when they got older, etc. 100% pro premarital counseling. My partner and I are looking at getting married soon, and premarital counseling is part of that process. OP, not stay home. My partner and I have similarly aged nieces who will be a co-flower girls. I even have a second niece who is a smidge older who will likely also be grouped in with them, maybe blowing bubbles. It is totally normal, and for my partner and I, didn't feel like any sort of compromise. We both said yes, of course. This makes sense because we want all the kids involved. Not day home. Just an observation, your fiancé sees this as her wedding, not our wedding. Honestly, if it were me, and I may be just way too petty, I would tell her that either Bryn is in as co-flower girl, or none of your fiancé's brothers-in-law or groomsmen. Just replace them with friends or co-workers. But again, just an observation. If this is your fiancé's reaction, good luck, buddy. For real, she already took over both halves of the bridal party, so the least she can do is give him a co-flower girl. If my fiancé tried to dictate my groomsmen, that would be a real deal breaker for me. I might allow one if I actually liked him enough. The way I see it, my groomsmen are mine, her bridesmaids are hers, and unless there is something serious, we don't really get much of a say in that. I already made it clear to my girlfriend who I'm talking marriage with, that my best friend and his wife will both be standing up for me. She's so excited to get a matching suit with her husband, and I don't care how anyone's family reacts. I won't dictate her side and she won't dictate mine. Now for the update. Okay, wow. Thank you to everyone who reached out. This morning, my fiancé and I sat down to talk about the wedding in general. I brought up Bryn and Aubrey. My fiancé just kept parroting, "It's tradition, let Aubrey have the spotlight." She shot down compromise after compromise. Aubrey walks first, Bryn blows bubbles or holds a sign, etc. Finally, my fiancé was honest. She doesn't want Bryn in our wedding because Bryn has Down syndrome. She said everyone will be looking at her, taking pity, etc. Turns out it wasn't about a spotlight on Aubrey, but my freaking fiancé. I told her to screw herself, called her ableist, and said don't worry, there won't be a spotlight to steal anymore because there's no wedding. I've left our apartment, staying at my sister's and playing with Bryn. My phone has been blowing up with texts and calls from my fiancé. Magically, she's ready to compromise now. I need time, but I'm likely done. Y'all were right. Didn't see that coming. I just thought she wanted her niece because it's her niece and her wedding. Men usually get their wants overlooked in weddings. This is way worse. This wasn't innocent when she asked him to have her family in as groomsmen but couldn't have his sister. This woman is a piece of work. This was weird. Her brother as a groomsman, sure. But her brothers-in-law? What the heck is that? Oh wow. I read the original post this morning before the update. I didn't think it was a good sign that it made it over here so quickly. The comment from Opie that really stood out to me. My fiancé has had some jealousy issues with Bryn. I'm not as close with Aubrey, mainly because we don't see her much. My fiancé also feels I'm too close with Bryn. My sister is a single mom. Her husband passed and I'm the only male role model in Bryn's life. I go to her ballet recitals, taught her how to ride her trike, babysit her overnight. It never interferes with time with my fiancé, but she thinks it's weird. Wow, Opie sounds like a real stand-up guy to support his sister and his niece that way. He deserves a wife that loves his niece as much as he does, and that encourages him supporting his sister. I think before all the ableist views came out, she was still way out of line by insisting every person in her family should be in the wedding, but his two family members couldn't be. The truth propels her into a true villain instead of just a selfish bridezilla. He mentions in the comments that his fiancé is jealous of Denise as well, which is probably colored more from the ableist viewpoint, but still so freaking weird. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad what his fiancé said and causing wedding troubles? My 16 female mom passed away 8 years ago. I look just like her. Same hair, same eyes. With the right makeup, I resemble her exact face. I know that my dad loved my mom so much. Losing her hurt him deeply. We became tight-knit and my dad has been an awesome parent for me. I know I can't count on him for anything. He's about to get married to his girlfriend of 3 years. We had a rough patch a year and so ago when they began to talk about marriage. She didn't like that he introduced the idea to me rather than just ask her, and then let me find out/tell me together. She also didn't like that I didn't want to take any part in the wedding party. I'm happy for my dad. I truly am. And I like his girlfriend as a person, but she will never be my mother. And at 16, I hardly need to bond with someone that way. I'll spend the wedding taking care of my uncle's kids. He's paying me and I accepted. This wedding is really not a big deal for me. What I did accept is give a small speech about them and that's all. A week or so ago, my grandmother, Dad's mom, his fiancé and I went shopping to get something she wanted. I saw a dress that I liked for the wedding and so we went to the store so I could try it on. It was an olive dress that matched my hair nicely. I'm a ginger. They complimented me and my grandma said that I looked like my mother because she wore that color so much. Just a small comment. We moved on and that was all. Then 2 days ago, my dad's fiancé came to me and asked if I was willing to dye my hair or wear a wig for the wedding. I was taken aback because WTF? I said no questions asked. But she said she didn't want people telling me I looked like my mother at her wedding. I said no, and I asked her to get out of my room because it wasn't gonna happen. As soon as my dad came back from work, I told him what happened earlier and that it made me feel uncomfortable. I went to stay with my uncle and they talked, and the wedding was paused because they fought. Now his fiancé's family is blaming me because I caused this problem by refusing to compromise to a bride's request. I'm feeling guilty because I didn't mean for this to happen. But sometimes when I try to talk to his fiancé about things I didn't like and how it made me feel, she treats me as a brat who wants to get her way. So I rather tell my dad and have him talk to her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Her request was so petty and out of line it isn't even funny. If your father has any sense at all, he will tell his fiancé to kick rocks. It really took me by surprise, because she has never been like this and has never shown any animosity toward my mom or her memory. She has even said she loves my hair. It was weird, to be honest. She's never been this way before because she's been putting on an act. This is showing that she's insecure and jealous over you and your mother. Not the a-hole. You didn't cause this. She did. Her insecurities and jealousy about your mom surfaced, and she made a really unreasonable request. It's right that the wedding has been put on hold for now. She has some stuff to work through. Not the a-hole times 1000. Next, she'll be asking you to have plastic surgery and look like herself. I have a wonderful friend who is a second wife. The kids her husband had were 14, 16, 19, 24 when they married. Her husband had a wonderful portrait of the family over the fireplace and their mother was in that portrait. At the engagement dinner, the groom's boss's wife said, "OMG, you need to remove that painting." She said it loud and in almost a scream. My friend ran over and said, "No, don't you dare take that portrait down. That is their mother." I wouldn't love a man who stopped loving his children's mother just because she died. In that moment, his children surrounded her and knew they had a second mother who would love them. And she does. I hope your father doesn't marry this selfish woman and finds one who understands the heart can make room for new loves without destroying the old love. When my stepmom married my dad, our mother had been dead for about 5 years. Stepmom found shoe boxes full of pictures in the attic. Family pictures with my sister and me, our mother, dad, and grandparents. She made photo albums and put them in the living room. When Dad passed away 50+ years later, she arranged for us all to meet at a cemetery so some of his ashes could be interred with our mothers. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for accidentally announcing my elopement the day of my sister's wedding? My husband, 34 male, and I, 29 female, eloped in late June. Neither of us had ever dreamed of a big wedding. We fell in love with the opposite concept, which was doing it privately and getting to keep that special memory, something just between us two. We had plans to throw a party around our 1-year anniversary so our families could celebrate with us then. So far, we hadn't told my side of the family that we had tied a knot. We live in a few hours away from them and wanted to be able to tell them in person rather than over the phone, but hadn't gotten a chance so far. My sister, 27 female, got married yesterday, traditional wedding style. We drove down Friday afternoon and said our hellos, but kept to ourselves for the most part and let her and her bridal party do their thing. She was focused on a million other things, and rings on mine and my husband's fingers were the last thing on her mind, as they were for us. Being married almost 2 months means wearing those rings has just become second nature. I don't take it off, and I hardly remember him wearing it unless someone points it out to me. The next morning, we were invited to have breakfast with my sister, my mother, and her bridal party. To make a long story short, my mom noticed mine and my husband's wedding bands and asked if they were what she thought they were. We attempted to change the course of the conversation without outright lying, but my mother kept pushing until we finally admitted that yes, we had gotten married back in June. My sister got very angry and asked my husband and I to leave breakfast. We apologized profusely, but she held her ground. The rest of the day went off nicely, but we did ask members of the bridal party if she was still angry, and they said yes, and that she thought we had worn the ring specifically to steal the light of her big day. My husband and I are obviously very embarrassed, but we don't fully believe the onus falls on us here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Sorry, I don't believe for a second you didn't have one thought between the two of you that wearing wedding bands wouldn't attract questions. Look, it's fine to elope. It's fine to have a small wedding. It's not okay to announce hours before a sibling's wedding that you eloped. That's just awkward for everyone, and attention-grabbing. You could have left your wedding bands at home or told people in advance. It's one thing to elope, but it's another to not even bother mentioning it to family. Why keep being married a secret? Hard agree in all points here. You're the a-hole, OP. It was the day after the wedding, and only because the mother pushed the question, even when OP and her husband tried to steer the conversation in a different direction. I disagree, so I'm going with not the a-hole. You're the a-hole. It sounds like you didn't mean it, but wearing your wedding rings effectively is announcing your marriage, and letting your family see them for the first time on your sister's wedding day is definitely going to upset her. We don't fully believe the onus falls on us here. Why? Exactly this. It is OP's fault here, and the sister's reaction is justified. You're the a-hole, OP. We don't fully believe the onus falls on us here. Who does the onus fall on then? Was your sister supposed to put in the invite? If anyone has gotten secretly married, please leave your secret wedding rings at home? You're the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my parents to my wedding because of how they treat my sisters? Some backstory. I'm 30 female, the oldest of 5. I have 3 full siblings. Male 27, female 25, Juliet 20, and 1 half-sister, Charlotte, 7. 8 years ago, my dad had an affair. That woman got pregnant and didn't want anything to do with the baby, so she gave her to my parents. My parents didn't want anything to do with her, so my sisters and I were always expected to take care of Charlotte, and she's always had her own room in my house because I babysat overnight so often. 5 years ago, my parents moved into a 2-bedroom condo. My dad had 1 room and my mom had the other. Juliet and Charlotte were supposed to share the living room. Charlotte climbed onto the balcony and fell once. She got out of the condo and was found wandering around the neighborhood multiple times. Heck, Juliet would take her and they'd take a bus/walk to my place. Needless to say, after a couple months, they both moved in with me. Charlotte was okay after falling from the balcony in case anyone was worried. And 4 years ago, I adopted both girls. Right before Juliet started college, our parents told her they used her college fund to pay for their condo. So instead of going to her dream school, she went to community college and goes to a nearby state school and I pay her tuition. Community college is free in our area, and a state school isn't too expensive. Plus, she has some scholarships to help cover it. Charlotte is such a happy little girl. She's the kind of kid that'll run up to you and jump into your arms when you visit before running outside to pick you some flowers. I love dressing her up and doing her hair and our talks when I walk her home from school and our ice cream dates. She's the perfect kid. My parents want nothing to do with Charlotte while they barely like talking to Juliet, but at least they'll say happy birthday and get her a Christmas gift. Charlotte hasn't seen them since she was 3 and doesn't even know who they are. As far as she knows, I'm her only mommy. I have been dating Henry for 3 years. He adores Charlotte and is an amazing stepdad. He moved in a few months ago and we're getting married in October. We posted in our social medias about the wedding, and my parents texted me asking when they should expect their invitation. I told them they're not invited. Juliet is my maid of honor, and she doesn't want to see them, and I don't want them around Charlotte. They tried telling me that their relationship with Juliet or Charlotte is none of my business, and that they were good parents to me, so they deserve to be invited to my wedding. I told them it is my business because I adopted them, and I said they weren't good parents because they forced me to become a mom at 23 when Charlotte was born. Now my mom is upset that I'm blaming her for my dad's mistakes, and I have other family members telling me I should invite them to keep the peace, so I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Not the a-hole. First of all, your sisters are incredibly lucky to have you. That said, you absolutely are not obligated to invite these people to your wedding. Good on you for putting the feelings of Juliet and Charlotte above those of anyone else. You certainly didn't learn that from your parents. Exactly. I wish Opie and their family all the best. The parents sound like horrible people. I don't even understand why Opie would entertain them. What is the point? I would pay them dust. Not the a-hole. Weddings are about family. Real family. I got some grief when I didn't invite certain people to my wedding, but it was worth it to have a good celebration. It truly was one of the best days of my life, and I strongly believe it's because I didn't invite any a-holes. My parents also thought their friends would be invited. That was a whole other argument. Update. How do I, 24 male, get my dad, 52 male, to realize his wife, 38, is not my mom, and to quit pressing a relationship? Original post. My mom passed when I was 14. I was always closer with her than my dad, so I took it very hard and still missed her every day. My dad moved on extremely quickly. I'm talking about 1.5 months later and he was already openly dating his current wife. I even suspect he was cheating on my mom. She moved in 4 months after my mom's death. The 9 months after her death, they announced their engagement on my birthday as one of my gifts. I obviously didn't take it well, made a scene and dumped the cake they got me and walked out. I disappeared for a few days, until they were about to put on a missing persons/runaway report, and I was forced to go back. They tried to get rid of all evidence of my mom, pictures, personal effects, memories, and others. I kept what I could and hid some others. They wouldn't let me celebrate her birthday or anything to do with my mom. Then they tried to force me to call her mom, but I never did, but they would ignore me when I call her by her name. She would introduce herself as my mom. I would correct her every time. It got to the point that I stopped talking to her unless absolutely necessary, or if I was correcting her. These talks were usually one-word answers. My dad got angry every time I didn't call her mom, use her first name, or introduce her as dad's wife. I once spent 2 weeks not talking to either of them when I was 16, because I was ruining her family dynamic. Said that until I can be a part of the family, there was nothing to say or do as one. Though they caved at about the 15th day of no communication/interaction. I turned 18 and left for uni and went extremely low contact and didn't go back. When I was 21, I got engaged to my fiancée. She knows about my relationship with my dad and his wife, and she respects it and is on my side. When they found out, my dad and his wife had a fit. They didn't know I was seeing anyone. Then my dad's wife posted on social media saying she was excited that her son, me, was getting married, along with a bunch of other things, like saying she can't wait until she becomes a grandma. I made a short post saying I am not and never was her son, and she won't be a grandma to any future kids. My dad got mad, saying I was disrespecting my mother and embarrassed her. I asked who we were talking about because my only mother was the one who gave me life. And at this point, I lost both of my parents on the day when I was 14. That was 3 years ago, and we went back to low/no contact. But now my wife is about 8 months pregnant. They showed up to my house, though I never gave them my address. They wanted to talk and meet my wife. I didn't let them in and said to turn around and go back to where they came from. But apparently, they decided they wanted to move to my city/state to be closer and repair the relationship between us. She said she missed her son and wanted to be a better mom and grandma. I called them delusional and told them to leave and slam the door. They ended up buying a house about 5 minutes away from us. This has all been way too much for me, and my therapist wants me to let them in. But I would rather cut all contact. It wouldn't be so bad if they just would stop trying to replace my mom and act like she never existed. I honestly don't know much about my dad's wife. I don't even know if I know who my dad is anymore. My wife is struggling to support me emotionally and doesn't know how to help. Please, internet strangers, how do I convince them that she is not and will never be my mom? Edited to Ed. About my therapist. He said I should try to express my true feelings towards them in a non-hostile and threatening manner. Do it in a way that is constructive but gets to the point. Learn more about my dad and his wife and get to the root of who they are and how they feel about the situation. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I didn't let them in and said to turn around and go back to where they came from. You have the right to set and enforce this boundary if this is what you want. My therapist wants me to let them in. Why does your therapist want you to do this? Yes, your therapist is so freaking out of line. Please get a new therapist that's actually experienced in dealing with narcissistic parents. I'm concerned that your current therapist might try to contact your parents for an impromptu family therapy session that they conveniently blindside you with because you need to let them in. Nope. Also, if moving is an option, consider it. At the very least, see if you can get a no-contact order or something like that, and get cameras installed on your property. Given the level of delusion, I wouldn't be surprised if your mom ramps things up once the baby is born and resorts to attempting to take your baby for snuggle time at grandma's. There's a story from Just No Mother-in-Law where some lunatics told her grandbaby in the middle of the night like she had permission and like it was actually cute and not heart attack inducing for a daughter-in-law. Your therapist is completely disregarding the issue here, attempts to replace your birth mother and bullying you emotionally to achieve this. Definitely get another therapist. Contact a lawyer. You can prove no contact and unwanted behavior, like turning up unannounced and buying property near you. This is stalking, and you can get a restraining order. Yes, Opie needs a new therapist. Why is he disregarding everything you've been through, Opie? I would not trust these people around my kids, Opie. They sound delusional. I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this. Please take care of yourself and your pregnant wife. I'm 9 months pregnant. I don't talk to my dad at all, and my husband loathes him. He was a horrible husband to my mom and didn't even come to her funeral. If he suddenly showed up at my door with his wife, I would have honestly probably gone into premature birth with all that stress. Crappy parents suck. I loved my mom too. And your family now is your priority. Do what you need to protect them. You do not owe these people anything. Nothing at all. Went through something similar. Mom passed away when I was 13. Dad started dating one of her friends within a month and ended up marrying my mom's old boss. My grandfather said he didn't even wait for her body to get cold. That's how fast he moved on. I'm 40 now and haven't seen or spoken to my father since I was 26 or so. Best decision I made. In the end, you set who you want to be in contact with and who you don't. Stand firm and don't give in. I would also find another therapist who understands your situation. Your father and his wife's actions sound insane. Just to move to be closer without reconnecting slowly and properly is a red flag to me. Be careful, but I would keep my distance and possibly even look into a restraining order if they keep coming around. Now for the update. Hello all. Thanks for your comments and feedback. I did read them all. I couldn't reply for some reason. Also, for those who said I must be fake because of a lack of replies/updates, the post got so much attention that it was locked in 24 hours. I do have a life with work and an 8-month pregnant queen that I have the privilege of calling my wife that took priority. To answer some questions and to clarify, my wife, me and our unborn child are doing good overall. My wife is over being pregnant at this point, but our child should be here in the coming weeks. I did find a new therapist. I called to cancel the rest of my appointments on the books, and he did not take that well. So I have to put in a complaint. I met with my new one, and I like her a lot better. I feel like I'm actually being heard and actually getting the help I needed. I want to make this clear. I am 24. My dad's wife is 38, so 14 years older than me. My dad is 52, also 14 years older than his wife. So when she entered my life, I was 14 and she was 28. There were also theories about how my dad might have something to do with my mom's death. Though it's not the case, I still believe they were together before she passed. I am investing in a security system, but it will be a few weeks until they can install it. But for now, we have a doorbell cam and some cheaper cameras. As for social media, since the post about her being excited about being a grandma and how my wife and I getting engaged, we have locked down all social media. My wife and I are not active in any platforms anymore, except for messaging or sharing pictures. We found a leak as well. It is my brother-in-law, my wife's sister's husband. We had a family dinner where we had planned on working on a birthing plan, and brother-in-law was insistent on being there, which was odd as he was not part of it to begin with. While we were waiting for my mother-in-law to get home, I shared what happened between my dad and how it made me/my wife feel. Brother-in-law got visibly uncomfortable. When we called him out on it, he denied it, but it was obvious. Sister-in-law called him out too, and he broke down. He said he had been talking with them because we need all the family support we can get, and they should know their grandbaby. This caused an argument, which ended with sister-in-law moving out and staying with us. They have no kids and had some issues, and I think it is over for them. I will never trust him. Our birthing plan has been locked down and secure, made a day later without brother-in-law, but we have some just-in-case of crazy showing up plans. Everyone who needs to know the plans/details, know. Now, it is surprisingly hard to get a protection order. Where we live, it is heavily dependent on violence or physical contact. Technically, what they have done is not against the law yet. They are perceived as no real danger at this time since there were no threats made, and they left when asked to. They have free will to move wherever they want. Also, since a family member gave another family member my address, it is fair game. In regards to grandparents' rights, it is only when my wife and I have lost custody or are unable to care for them, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law will be taking on that role if needed. My wife and I are not in a position to move. We just bought our house when interest rates were low, and my in-laws helped with the down payment. It is nothing massive, but it is home and perfect for our starting family. My dad and his wife are unable/shouldn't have kids. I don't know what side made it impossible, so that may be why the constant pressure. I did write my dad a letter summing up why I want no contact, how I feel about what they did, how his wife is not my mom and will never be, that if I feel like giving them a chance, it is on my/my family's terms. Specified that my family is me, my wife, and any possible children moving forward. They are not to talk to my wife or I at any time, unless it is through our lawyer. He can then decide what information to pass on. They are not welcome around us at any point, including our house, school, daycare, social gatherings, birthdays, Christmas, barbecues, etc. As well as in public, we are strangers. Keep space and act like we don't exist. If they break this, they will get a follow-up letter, up to and including a protection order. The letter was quite long. Our lawyer looked over it, and my wife and I signed it. Then he signed it as well as it being notarized, and then we made legal copies for all of our records. My lawyer went with a private delivery service and hand-delivered it to him with a signature of received goods, plus video evidence as well. So far, so good at that end. I'm now focused on my wife and soon-to-be child. I hope I'm ready. I know how not to be a father, so there is that. Thanks all for your input. Is there anything else I should do or think of to protect my family? Reddit is a great place to think of all wacko possibilities, and it sounds like you did a great job covering your bases. Now you enjoy your growing family and give your wife flowers and foot rub just because. Be prepared for the sleepless nights and the overwhelming feeling of being miserably tired and yet completely happy at the same time. Last story. I'm watching my dad be a better father to his stepdaughters. My mom and dad never had a healthy marriage, and my dad was super absent. He worked a lot and would come home angry more often than not. He took that out on us. He did a lot of terrible things to my sister, my mom, and me, but it wasn't always bad, and I guess that's the hard part. They eventually got a divorce. A year later, he married a woman he barely knew without even telling my sister and I, while her daughters were invited. This made me decide to go no contact because I felt disrespected, and my sister did as well. He and my sister have rekindled their relationship, but keep each other at arm's length. I held a grudge until my boyfriend proposed, and I decided to be the bigger person and invite him to my wedding. I unblocked him on Facebook, only to see his cover photo is of him and his stepdaughters, both around my and my sister's age, with a caption about how they meant the world to him. He'd never posted anything about me or my sister like that. I scrolled through his page, and I wish I didn't. I just hurt myself more. He took them to Hawaii. He never bothered going on vacation with us because he always wanted to take his vacation to go hunting alone. He got them dogs while he took my dog to the pound when I was at school one day because it barked too much. He gave one of them a family heirloom that we got screamed at over if we even came near it. It just hurts because I got a lot of good things from him, like my sense of humor, my love for cheesy action movies, and talkative nature. But I also got a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, and a lot of neglect. It would be easier if all the memories were bad, because that would make it easier than seeing him play Dad of the Year with two girls who aren't even his. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Screw him. You're better than him. He has to raise someone else's children and you're getting married. Who actually cares about him anymore? Live your life. He clearly failed his. So why bother? Yes, screw him. I'm really glad I found the best guy ever. I'm looking forward to having children of my own that both have parents that love them very much. Thank you. My husband and I both have crappy parents. He hasn't spoken to his mother in 25 years, for example. I'm 41 and he's 48, and we have a daughter about to turn 8 years old who we adore. We learned so much about how not to parent from our crappy parents. Honestly, my husband, despite growing up with an awful alcoholic mother and absent incompetent father, is the most amazing dad. Literally, from the minute our daughter was born, he was taking care of her, while I was separate from her in ICU. He did everything for her that first month while I recovered, and ever since has been at least an equal parent if not doing more with our daughter. And I have a completely different relationship with her than the one I had with my mom, who was cold, distant, and approachable and judgmental. My daughter and I are super close. I hug her every day and tell her that I love her. We talk about anything and everything, and she knows she can come to me for anything and I'll help her. All that crappy parenting stopped at our parents' generation, and we have actively broken that cycle and consciously avoid being anything like that. You too have learned a huge amount of how not to parent from your experience, and will hopefully have a fulfilling and loving relationship with your child/children in the future. It's awful what your dad has done. My cousin's father did exactly the same to them, and I remember how much it hurt them too. But it's shown you the type of parent you don't want to be, and how you've felt in all these experiences will have a huge influence on how you parent, as you'll understand how you felt when you were forgotten about and made to feel unimportant and replaceable. Your dad sucks. He must know that the way he's behaved would make you feel awful, and he's so selfish and self-centered that he doesn't care and still does it. You owe him nothing. He hasn't been a good father and doesn't seem to care about that. He's not remorseful nor trying to repair things, so why should you care for him and his feelings? I'm sorry that he can't be the father you want and deserve. If it doesn't bring anything positive to your life, it only causes angst and stress, it is perfectly okay and understandable to cut him out of your life. You don't have to allow him access to keep hurting you. Best of luck with your wedding and creating your own beautiful family. I'm so sorry to hear that. Hope you're living a good life right now. I actually am. My life is great outside of being upset about this. Thank you for being so sweet though. Now for the update. Wow guys, I'm overwhelmed by your support. It means a whole lot to me. I've teared up reading your replies, and I wish I had the time to reply to each and every one of you. You're all such kind souls. I'm so sorry we, meaning myself and all the people who commented with a similar story, have to live with this. But we will overcome it and be better without them. For the record, he is definitely uninvited to my wedding. I actually hadn't sent him an invite yet, so I just saved myself from having to rescind it. I've blocked him again, and I'm back to pretending I just have one parent. Either my mom or my sister will walk me down the aisle.